once again, Amazon player Akayex is going to be going off against Facebook's player Radioactive, and Radioactive is in fact the ex-Amazon employee and also team player. So he's going to have a little bit of knowledge into the mindset of Amazon players. So we're going to have to wait and see how this goes. The map is going to be Howling Peaks. The game is getting started. Spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of Howling Peaks, we have the red Terran player representing Team Amazon. It is going to be Amazon's Akayex, looking to close out the series with a 3-2 victory against his opponent. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of Howling Peaks, the blue Zerg player, an ex-Amazon employee, but now representing Team Facebook. His name is going to be Radioactive. And this game is about to get started. This is the second Terran versus Zerg that we have seen today, I believe. Yeah, I think it's... Oh, it looks like... Oh, my overlay is not in the proper position? Oh, shoot. Oh boy, that's actually not good. Alright, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. And then we're going to do... Oh boy. Alright guys, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the overlay for this. So those of you watching live, the overlay will in fact not be there, but I will in fact just edit that overlay back in to the video. In case you're watching the video, don't even worry about that little part. We're going to go ahead and just talk about the game. I'm going to go ahead and yeah. So it looks like Akayex is going to be going for that one Rax, that standard opening. Not these players really doing anything too crazy, too out of the ordinary. And I would be expecting Radioactive to just be saving up for that hatchery. And there we see that drone going over to the hatchery in natural expansion. And one kind of interesting note about this map is, a lot of you guys might not be too familiar with this map, is it does have these two little openings. It kind of is reminiscent of Zelnaga caverns from back in the day, where you have that kind of back door opening that you can run to, especially if you are on the Terran side. You can run in with some Zerglings, do a bunch of harassment over here, and then immediately run out, even if there is a wall off over here. But, of course, there is that nice wide little choke over there the Terran player can try and move up into. And, of course, also, the choke also allows the Terran player to get some nice siege tanks up there to defend. This drone is clearly out for blood. He wishes that he had a home in that supply depot. Look at how inviting that is. There's a nice little hearth of a fire in there. It's just so relaxing. Can you imagine all the Marines just sitting back behind the table, relaxing after the war is done? But you know what? That is not the case right now. The war is not over. The war has just begun, and Radioactive is sending his drone back because there is an enemy SCV on the other side of the map. Akayex looking to do a little bit of scouting information, just checking around. Looks like he was looking out for the third. Also was checking earlier on to see whether or not there was a gas being taken. It looks like that gas geyser does get taken relatively soon. So we should be seeing pretty soon a Zergling speed coming out once the gas exists for that. And this Marine going to go ahead and knock out these unbuildable rocks. Of course, also known as the unbuildable Dustin Browders. For those of you more familiar with Wings of Liberty. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and see, oh, a nice little placement for that bunker. That's going to be a pretty safe bunker. It's protected by the most part by this Vespene gas geyser, as well as by this wall and this wall. So that's going to make it very difficult for Zerglings to get a lot of surface area on this bunker. And I really like that positioning from Akayex. We're going to see he's probably going to be going for some kind of, one Rax expansion and then going into the Reactor Hellion build. Now, again, I mentioned before that Akayex had actually played out some games last week, and he had opted for that more mech style of play, kind of like how we saw in his game this week. Although in this week's game, he kind of opted to go for the Reaper opening, which really threw people off. And oh god, he had me worried for a second. I thought the Zerglings were actually going to get in, but the Zerglings do end up scouting out everything. They see, hey, factory and a reactor. I know what that means. Reactor Hellions, man. So he's going to have to go ahead and prepare for that. He can do that in a couple of ways. It looks like his way is going to just be going ahead and getting that Roach Horn. Not probably going to be building too many of those walls. Just going to get a Spine Crawler up as well. So he should be able to defend for that quite appropriately. Now, one other thing to note is that there are a lot of different ways that you can play with these Hellions. Some players like to pool up Hellions, and you kind of wait until you get 4, maybe even 6 in some cases, and then you go in and try and seize map control and start doing a ton of damage to your opponent. But some players just kind of like to go out with 2 Hellions and seize map control and then wait for the next 2 and then go in and try and do a little bit of damage. And you're not trying to do a massive amount of damage, you're trying to do a little bit, force some extra Zerglings or Roaches, maybe get a couple of drones. It's not really an all-in thing. The main thing is you're shutting down things like creep spread, you're keeping your opponent from just massively droning up, and with those Hellions, if you decide to transition into the Cloak Banshee or even just a Banshee, you can force the Queens to be in positions where the Banshees will be, the Banshees won't be. So basically the Hellions come in, they're poking around over here. The Queens have to defend the Creep Tumors and the Spine Crawler and all this other kind of nazi, jazzy stuff. And then meanwhile, the Banshees come in around the backside, where the Queens aren't. So the Queens are not, I mean, they're coming back for larva injects and such, but they're not going to be there to defend against those Banshees. So that's kind of the idea of the Hellions, and this is a trademark Wings of Liberty style of play. Now we will end up seeing these 4 Hellions try and come in, they're going to roast 1 Zergling. These Queens are definitely going to be able to do a good job of keeping those Hellions back, though. The Hellions are going to have a hard time, and I like the nice little Overlord spread of Radioactive. Has an Overlord over here, has an Overlord over here, has Overlords basically literally surrounding these Hellions, so he knows wherever the Hellions decide to go. So if they try and go for this backdoor opening, the Queens can immediately reposition themselves to defend that. In the meanwhile, we do end up seeing, it looks like the Banshee with no cloak is going to be coming out from a kayak. It's going to be using all of that gas to get those reactor Widow Mines out. And this is going to be looking a little bit like that other game that we saw Kayaks playing. I think it was game number 3. And I'm really curious to see how effective this is going to be, because I mean, Radioactive should know a little bit about the style. He was definitely watching on the stream. All these games are being live casted, so he should know exactly how that game went, and he should be prepared. He was probably even observing it, taking note of a couple of things, thinking, hey, if I have to play this guy in an ace match, I should know how to deal with this. Now we do end up seeing those Hellions doing some good damage over to those Zerglings. A couple of those Roaches should be able to fend them off just fine. And I like the fact that Radioactive really hasn't been overproducing Roaches. He has 2 Roaches. That's like the ultimate underproduction of Roaches, because he realized, hey, you know what, there's not that many Hellions, and of course there aren't actually even any Hellions coming out, any additional Hellions coming out. It was just those couple of Widow Mines. Now, where are those Widow Mines? Looks like one is just being planted over here defensively. We do have those 3 Hellions over there, but here's the Banshee at least. The Banshee just trying to rack up a couple of kills. Managed to get 6. That's actually a pretty good win, especially since the Spore Crawler was not quite finished, but now we end up seeing the Spire going to be finishing up. That should put an end to almost all of that Banshee harassment, as the Banshee has to be so careful once those Mules start to come out. And how exactly is a Kayak's going to respond? Now, he did, in fact, get up that missile turret over there in the main base and over at the National Expansion, so he should be relatively prepared for a Mules transition. And Radioactive, having those Mutals out, he does have, of course, all 4 of his gas guys taken, because Mutals are super gas intensive. But interestingly enough, he's going for the 3rd a little bit later, so that means that he's not going to have a lot of Mutals. He's going to have a couple of Mutals, but he's going to have them early enough. He's going to be able to do things like this. He's going to be able to pick off that Banshee. He's going to be able to come in for potentially catch a Kayaks a little bit off guard. But, you know, a Kayaks is already very much prepared. He's getting out the 2nd missile turrets already, seeing that Mutals count. And, yeah, here's the 2nd turret and a 3rd turret, actually, in the main, just to cover some of those production facilities. I really like the placement. As you can see, is really awesome for zoning. The only little area is like right around here where he's going to be a little bit more vulnerable, but he has a bunker over there and such, so he should be able to defend just fine. And, oh my god, the Widow Mine even placed really magnificently over there. Going to be able to fend off against some of those Mules, but I mean, the Mules are doing a good job. They're going to keep, in fact, a Kayaks at home. He's going to maybe be able to get off a couple of pickups, just picking off some Marines here and there, and also maybe even some SCVs. And in the meanwhile, the important thing is he's taking this 3rd. He's going to maybe, I think that it might be a good idea to try and think about either getting some big tech out, like the Infestation Pit. That's a really good example of some big tech, especially with the pathogen glands research being done. So we will have infestors out sometime in the near future, probably. And also even just thinking, oh, actually a double Infestation Pit. Is that a mistake? I mean, you look over here and he's already researching one of the Infestation Pit's research things, and there's only 2 left. So there's Neural Parasite, and then there's Enduring Locust. So Enduring Locust, what that'll actually do is it kind of helps out the Swarm Host a little bit. It increases how long the Locust will actually survive. Looks like we're having a pause for a little bit. Go ahead and come back to here for a second. But Enduring Locust will actually just help out the Swarm Host just a little bit, but I mean, really, I can't really think of any big timings that you could hit because you have the Infestor Energy plus Neuroparasite plus the Enduring Locust. I feel like he's not going to have enough, especially since he opened up with the 2-base play, to have any kind of massive number of Infestors to do a lot of Neuroparasites, and it looks like the game started again, or even to do a lot of Swarm Hosts. So kind of, I feel like that is in fact a mistake. But regardless, we have some of those Swarm Hosts coming out, so he might just be looking to prove me wrong. We might see both of those researches coming down in just a little bit, or heck, you know, maybe it's just a preparation. Oh my god, that Widow Mine almost managed to get off some hits on some of those Mutalisks, but doesn't look like they end up getting it. But Akaix has already gone ahead and established his third. It looks like doesn't even want to deal with the creep over there, just going to go ahead and do that. But now we end up seeing a drop actually coming in over in the main, and how much damage was done. It looks like that Medevac is very low on health. He has to be super duper careful about it, especially since all the Mutalisks are coming out, and the Mutalisks should be able to pick that off without any problem. And the Mutalisks actually taking a good amount of damage, and wow, actually managed to pick off one of those Mutalisks. Now, how much damage was done? 16 workers actually already killed, so a really good job. And I mean, we still have a pretty even worker count, so of course, Akaix investing in all of those Widow Mines, investing in the drop, investing in the Hellions and the Banshee. He has to have some damage done, or otherwise it's just not an even game. Otherwise, in fact, a Radioactive would be ahead, so not a huge deal, and it's looking to be a pretty even game at this point. Akaix looks like he wants to move out. Even has a couple of Marauders mixed in now. That is very interesting, and actually has 1-1 done in opposition to just the +1 melee attacks of these Zerglings. You have to be very careful, as these Swarm Hosts are getting into a very nice position, as well, it could be a very nice position depending on how mobile Akaix decides to be with his army. It looks like the Swarm Hosts are in fact burrowing, but a little bit late, as now we end up seeing, oh no, all the Swarm Hosts are basically going to get taken out by this Marine Marauder Ball, and that is a huge investment into Radioactive's army. Now we do still have a couple more Swarm Hosts over here, but these Siege Tanks just reposition themselves, and now it looks like Akaix might be lacking a scan. Does he have a scan anywhere? No, it doesn't look like he has a scan, but actually surprisingly, there's actually instead just another drop going on in the main. He's going to be able to do some nice damage over here. The Queens and the Zerglings coming in to try and deal with all this stuff, and in the meanwhile, it looks like a couple more units just engaging over there. Finally, the drop does get picked off, but not before losing a ton of those Zerglings, and a nice little part of that Medevac. That's actually really cool physics from Heart of the Swarm. But in the meanwhile, you know what that actually does? That pulls all those Zerglings out of position, so now Akaix can push in even further. These Swarm Hosts are definitely under a lot of very, very heavy fire, and they have to be very careful. He needs to keep those alive if he wants to defend this. Does he have a Baneling Nest or anything of the sort? No, he doesn't have a Baneling Nest. He's starting to get out some Infestors. He has Pathogen Glands already finished researching, but they're going to be a little bit longer, and I'm not sure if he's going to have enough time to actually save this. And it looks like another Swarm Host gets taken down. All those Queens are getting taken down. The Marines and the Marauders just stimming up and taking out a couple of units and then healing back up. And now we end up seeing the Banelings starting to come in. They're going to get some nice hits off of it, mostly on the tank, and that's not what you want to be doing with those Banelings. A couple more Banelings going to be coming in, but look at this Siege Tank line. It's just a little bit too strong right now, and unfortunately, I feel like Radioactive has to make something happen. There's going to be the GG actually coming out from Radioactive, so Amazon taking the series 3-2 in a very, very close ace match. So very well played by Amazon, very well played by Facebook. But it looks like Amazon is going to go 2-0 in their Group 1 Division 1 section of League A. And Facebook, they're still going to be in a good place. They're going to be tied 1-1 for a win-loss in Division 1. But that being said, that was a pretty awesome game. So congratulations to Amazon. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the live commentary, and if you were watching the videos, hopefully you guys just enjoyed the commentary in general, and you decide to subscribe to my YouTube channel or my Twitch channel. It's youtube.com/FearDragon64 and twitch.tv/FearDragon64. And yeah, I mean, I'm really just have to give a big round of applause though to all the players, showing some really fantastic and innovative plays. I hadn't really seen a lot of the stuff that actually had been done, just small little cute tweaks that would be done to, say, Wings of Liberty builds, and that just make it so much more powerful because it just goes in line with the same general thought process, but just with the addition of some new units or maybe a new timing that's made available. You can do a lot of these really cool things, and I think that Radioactive was, he was in an interesting position. I feel like maybe if he had been able to not have those swarm hosts at the very first big engagement, be a little bit out of position, he still would have had a very good chance of holding them off. But unfortunately, they got behind the army and they had to burrow, and it was a very slow process. A ton of the Zerglings, the Mutals got wiped out before the swarm hosts could even get out their initial wave of locusts. And with that being said, then the swarm hosts were under fire. They got scanned and taken out, and from then on, Akayax was able to just push forward with that Marine Marauder Siege Tank Ball. So really well done by Akayax, really well done by Radioactive and all the other players. We had Met Zelma, TZ, Radioactive, Zimbaus, Gunslinger, Akayax, John Oldman, Cicero, and Winkletoss. So big round of applause for all the players that played today. And thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Please tune in for all the other After Hours Gaming League casts. I'm officially not... unfortunately not an official After Hours Gaming League caster. Oh my god, my room got really dark. Oh my god, it's so dark. Hold on guys, let me turn on the light. There we go. But yeah, I'm not an official After Hours Gaming League caster, but I got the opportunity to cast this. Thank you so much to Cicero for helping me get this opportunity to cast. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys did too. So with that being said, one more congratulations to Amazon, and well played to Facebook, all the players, of course, Super Manor, all saying GG and all that good stuff. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to stick around, I think I was hinted at the possibility of some extra like quote unquote show matches between some players, either just among Amazon or maybe if Facebook players want to join in. Sorry, just typing in the chat. But yeah, if you want to stick around for that, we'll wait and see if anyone's interested in that. But if not, gonna go ahead and take off. And with that being said, hope you guys are enjoying your lovely Sunday or whatever day it is for wherever you're watching it. And see you guys next time, guys. Tune in for the other After Hours Gaming League cast every week, as the group stages are just starting to pick up. It's only week number 2, and there's going to be a ton of really awesome games, especially as we start to move into the playoffs. It's really cool to see all the different innovative strategies that are coming out, because a lot of the times you'll be watching the pro games, and it's always a liberty. It's so hard to find a lot of people dedicatedly trying out the Heart of the Swarm beta, and here you kind of see that. You can see those top-notch players playing those games, and hey, you know what? They're top-notch players that also are really smart because they're working at companies like Facebook and Amazon and National Instruments and such. So definitely check it out. With that being said, last thank you guys, I promise, and hopefully I'll see you guys in a little bit. Take it easy, guys.